All right, this video is going to help you with the questions. Remember, read all of the directions. Make sure you're reading it and understanding what it's saying. Don't just skim through it. You'll miss something. So at this point, you have your table filled out. I'm just going to put some arbitrary numbers in there, just numbers off the top of my head. Say 40 tons. This one, there was about 70 tons. There was 65 tons, 50 tons, and 30 tons. And let's say that I chose, it says it up here, plastic. Okay. So now that you have that done, this question here is probably the most difficult. Number 4. You're going to graph your data. We've done a lot of graphs this year, so you should be able to graph this data pretty easily. All right. The one thing students lose most points on is they forget to add titles to the axes and to the graph itself. And make sure you use the appropriate graph for your data. There is a link. Which graph for what? If you need help to figure out which graph to use. Okay. Now this is going to be the hardest question probably of the whole project. Use the space below to calculate the amount of resources saved by recycling your resource each year. Then you're going to put that into a data table just like this one, and then you're going to graph that too. So what do I mean by calculate how many resources are saved? So let's just use 1 year. Let's say in 2016, they saved 40 tons of, and if I pick plastic. Okay. Well, now what we're going to do is, since they recycled 40 tons of plastic, remember that's a made up number, you're going to calculate how many of the resources that are used to make plastic were actually saved. And you're going to figure that out from this background information. It'll tell you here, plastic. It takes 180 gallons of oil and 44,000 gallons of water for 1 ton of plastic. This is the CP. CP kids have to calculate more things. If you're in the standard class, you don't have to do as many. But still, this example still will help all class levels. So 1 ton of plastic, I'm just going to write this down so we have it all on the same page. So for 1 ton of plastic, it's at 180 gallons of oil. And it said 44,000 gallons of H2O of water. Crazy. Okay. So now we have our information. What we have to do now is you have to figure out how much how much oil and how much water was saved by, in 2016 at least, recycling 40 tons of plastic. Remember this, the tons of plastic you got from those data tables, that's real data from Delran. This is how much was recycled. So every time they make new plastic, it takes this much to make a ton of plastic. But if we can recycle the plastic, they don't have to use this. So we're calculating how much they can save. So there's a couple ways you can do this. If you know 1 ton of plastic takes 180 gallons, well then how many would 40 tons? You could do it like this. 40 tons, we know 1 ton takes 180 gallons. Well, how many gallons would 40 tons be? You can do that. Or you could just realize if 1 ton takes 180 gallons of oil, and we have 40 tons, well, then we can just multiply those together. And I'm going to use my calculator, times 40. So we are saving, Delran saved in 2016, they saved 7,200 gallons of oil by recycling that much plastic. And if you're in the CP class, you have to do the same for the other part. All right. So this project is all about realizing how many resources we can actually save by recycling. Now let's talk about some other questions. Some of these questions are pretty obvious. What years did the most? You ought to read the graphs that you make and answer these. Make sure you finish the other parts first in the graphs. This is some opinion questions, number 3. And then for average, remember the average is you have to add up all of the years, right? So you take all of the numbers from each year, add them up, and divide it by the total number. Right? So you take like x1 plus x2 plus x3. That would be like 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019 plus 2020. You add those all together and you divide it by the total number of years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you divide it by 5. That'll give you the average. Okay? And number 6, be honest. What do you think really will help people recycle more? Not like in a perfect world, like, oh, just tell them it's good for the environment. What do you think would actually work? If you were like a legislator, if you were a mayor or a governor, what would actually work? Remember that I provided paper for the graphs.